Welcome to Unscripted with Russo. For our podcast, we decided to explore the people behind the narratives. I'll introduce decision makers and influencers and find out the intimate story behind their rise to success. Hey everybody, welcome to Unscripted with Russo. I am so excited to have this guest with me today, Carolyn Stennet. She's the VP of Human Resources at Victaulic. She is a wonderful person who I've had the pleasure of running into a lot. We've been on committees together, we've had short conversations, but I've always wanted to do a deep dive. So Carolyn, thank you for being here today.
Look, Ashley, thank you so much for inviting me. This is my first podcast.
Oh my gosh, good. Well, let's make it a fun one. Okay. I know we want to get into a little bit about your current role, but before we do that, I'd love for people to know a little bit more about you. So, where did you grow up and what was your sort of family structure? Just give us a little background on that.
Okay. So I'm a naturalized American citizen. I was born in Jamaica and I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. And so my formative years were in South Florida. I tell all my colleagues, I'm a child of the sun. So this is not my season right now, the winter, and I'm always wrapped up. But, growing up, it was great. I am a middle child, older brother, younger sister. And actually in our family, it was kind of the reverse. My younger sister is really probably the more mature and eldest of us all.
That's unusual. That's definitely a little unusual.
Unusual. And she went to West Point. And so her formative years going into adulthood was in the Army. And to this day, we keep telling her, we are not one of your soldiers, but I digress.
What's your older sibling? Is it a brother you said?
Brother, yes. And so he's kind of the one who's still finding himself. He, of the three of us, absolutely the smartest, just whip smart. He's in IT. And he's my tech support. And so I am like Fort Knox at home. All of my security and everything like that, the entire family looks to him to get us, get our internet set up, get our security settings right.
It's amazing in this day and age how incredibly important that is. Our project manager is married to someone in IT, and the amount of times we're like, hey, could you just ask him about this? It's so helpful.
He is our tech support. My mom's still in Fort Lauderdale, my sister and, a bunch of cousins, friends. And so he just zooms in. He has everything set up where he actually just takes over control and gets in there. But just going back to my childhood, it was great. Growing up, being able to be close to our family. And my mother was such a phenomenal cook. What I really remember about my childhood is just these wonderful meals. And she cooked every day, worked, but cooked. She made homemade ice cream. I mean, she made, pies. I mean, you name it. And then also we had fruit trees in our backyard. So we had orange trees, avocado trees, mango trees. And so even to this day, I don't drink orange juice because I always had fresh squeezed orange juice in the morning.
And you can't replicate that.
No, you can't. And, I'm a morning person. My mom's a morning person. So she was up and she'd make, breakfast, fresh squeezed orange juice. And so that's kind of childhood for me. And, back in the good old days, I would say, kids just went outside and played. And so we had such a diverse group of people in my neighborhood. We were always just outside. And the only rule was just come back in when the streetlights are on.
It's a thing that's been lost a little bit today, that ability for kids to just go out and play. And of course, we're fighting against devices and things like that. And I love those memories as well. I used to remember my brother, sister, and I being able to walk through this path through a neighborhood up into town and buy penny candy and go to the library. We used to go to the library and listen to tapes and think we were so cool, and something I think, oh, these kids will never know. But then again, I don't know how to make a TikTok. So,
I would get on the city bus and go to the library. Most people, it's like, if you're getting on the city bus, you're going to a mall, you're going to whatever, but I'd get on and go to the library, which was probably about less than 3 or 4 miles away from the beach. And I didn't really see the beach as that big of a deal because every weekend we were also at the beach. We would bring the family together and have cookouts. And so we were always at the beach. It was 15 minutes from the house.
It's so nice. I just spent some time in Florida. Actually, my daughter's looking at schools down there and I'm thrilled because we're thinking, how great would it be to go in Florida more often. What about, so you're the middle child. Were you kind of that peacekeeper role? Did you fall into that at all?
The three of us have such different personalities. Even though we're just 2 years apart, I was painfully shy as a child, and I am still an introvert. And so I was always off in my own world. My sister was the extrovert. We jokingly say she never saw a mic that she didn't like. And so she was always out and about, friends here and there. I mean, I had friends, but I didn't want to necessarily, I didn't need to be front and center.
So she's the person you invite to a karaoke night.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, and she will chat you up. You think I'm chatty? Oh my gosh. And I grew into this role. I think especially now as the VP of HR, I got to get out and meet people. But yeah, no, there's sometimes this, and her name's Jackie's like, Jackie, just please.
I've been told to settle on occasion. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear, Carolyn. So what about sports, hobbies? Did you play music? What kind of activities were you engaged in?
Oh, that is so funny. So, all right. No, I didn't play a musical instrument only because I wanted to play the drums. Why did I want to play the drums? Because no other girl was playing the drums. And of course, my mother said, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to play, the flute, the clarinet, something else. My brother played the trumpet. My sister played the flute. And I just said, well, if I can't do the drums, I'm not doing anything. And of course, it didn't hurt my mother. It hurt me, right? So I didn't, but I was a flag girl.
Nice.
In the marching band. Brother and sister were all in the marching band.
What was your high school colors and mascot?
Oh, mascot was the Tigers, colors orange and green. So
yeah. Like University of Miami, right?
University of Miami or FAMU, but we were the marching Tigers. And I still remember a friend, I have a dear friend from high school, I have friends from middle school, but a dear friend from high school showed me my drill team picture, and plastic cowboy hat, plastic boots, and white polyester tiny skirt and vest with a green satin. And on top of that, Ashley, I've been wearing kind of glasses since the second grade, and I didn't like contacts back then. I had those big Coke bottle glasses, not an attractive look.
It's funny. We were just looking at something. My daughter was showing me something on TikTok, of course, and it was this meme of kids in middle school and early high school. And it's just such a rough, I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you come from. Every person universally has this really strange period from like 12 to 15 that you just can't avoid.
Yeah.
So that's funny. So what kind of student were you? Because you've gone on and I want to talk a little bit about your education and going to Howard University and how you came to that decision. You mentioned being an introvert. Were you studious? Were you into school? Was there something right away you liked or didn't like?
You know what? I was very studious. Education was really important. And learning just came really easy for me. So yeah, I mean, I was the kid in the front row, hand always up, and I always got good grades. And that's really how I kind of measured, kind of who I am. That's, I kind of just, it was easy. And so always in, the gifted program, always in a magnet program, taking the advanced classes. And so in high school, I was in a gifted program, engineering program, and we would get up at 5:30 in the morning on the bus, and it took us probably about an hour to get to this magnet school, because I call it the Sea of Humanities, because we would start kind of in South Florida or south of Broward County where we are, and go all the way up north, and we pick up all of these different types of folks. The only thing we had in common, we were all pretty bright. So yeah, we were the nerds of the school. So yeah, it came pretty easy. I graduated second in the class. I was upset that I wasn't valedictorian. I was class president. I did play softball my last 2 years because I needed it on my resume, right?
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah,
so many cool accomplishments.
Yeah, I was pretty god awful at softball. And it's just like, you know what? It's okay. This is not how I'm going to make my living.
No, but it's a good life experience, right? Being part of a team and leadership skills and collaboration, all that stuff. I love that. And what about deciding to go to Howard? I mean, it sounds like you thought you wanted to go into science or engineering of some kind.
You know what? To tell you the truth, I really didn't have a passion for any one thing. You know, I was good at whatever I put my mind to. So I was good at science. I was, math. I was okay. I really had to focus at that. So yeah, so decided to go to Howard because my brother actually went to Howard, and I really wanted to go to Georgetown because back then Georgetown Hoyas, the basketball team, it was just all the rave. Patrick Ewing, everything. And no, I can't play basketball. I'm not that coordinated, but I just wanted to go. And so
That's something we have in common. I'm not either. I can't even really do a pickup game. I would just avoid it in gym, like just enough. I can dribble and I can try to shoot to play horse or whatever, but that's it.
No, I got hit in the head and it's like, you know what, this is so not for me with the basketball. I said, that really hurts. So no. And so I got waitlisted for Georgetown and I was crestfallen. It's like, what do you mean? Here I am, the salutatorian, all the accolades you can get. I got, I actually got a full scholarship to Howard. So my plan was to go there for the first year, show them how wonderful I am, and then go to Georgetown. Well, I got to Howard, absolutely loved it, and just said, hey, this is it. I actually started off with a chemical engineering major. Then realized
so something easy, something no big.
Just go for it. And I started off as a chemie major, but the labs, they were like 8 hours. And it's like, wait a second, I can't focus this long. And it wasn't that exciting. Yes, I could do it, but it wasn't the passion. I realized that my sophomore year, and I switched majors to chemistry. But then decided that, okay, this medical school research, whatever, this is not what I want to do. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to go to law school. Honestly.
Just that easy. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break because I do want to get back to the next steps and how that led to the career path you're on now. Okay. I would say, bummer for you, Georgetown. You missed out. You missed out. That's all I could say. We're going to be right back with Carolyn Stennet from Victaulic. You're listening to Unscripted with Russo. Home to the Iron Pigs in Dorney Park, Allentown is a city without limits. Food, art, dance, you name it, it's got it. Allentown's historic roots are matched with its vibrant culture to create an adventure that you'll never forget. Thinking of taking a trip? Follow Lehigh Valley, PA on Instagram, and you'll find attractions, hotels, and sites you won't want to miss. Welcome back to Unscripted with Russo. I'm Ashley Russo, and I'm here with my friend Carolyn Stennet from Victaulic. She's telling us all about her journey, her amazing childhood in South Florida with avocado and lime trees in her backyard, to her adventures in high school, and then heading off to Howard University, switching majors a few times, and eventually deciding that you wanted to go to law school. So I think it's so interesting, Carolyn, because you know, kind of a jack of all trades. Like you mentioned, you would try stuff, and if you put hard work in, it would work out. And I love that you were open to that. What was sparked in you for those next level of education for you? I believe you got your Master's of Public Administration.
Yeah, from Harvard. Yeah.
From Harvard. So, you know, again, Georgetown, whatever. Off to Harvard. How did that come about? And what happened in those ending college years at Howard that allowed that to be your next step?
Well, you know, I'm always looking 10 paces out, you know, and, you know, we'll get to where I am today, but my team's always saying I'm in 2030 or 2040, and they're in the here and now. And so when I realized that chemical engineering wasn't for me, I wasn't going to go to med school. You know, my scholarship was for 4 years, full academic scholarship. And so it's like, okay, what do I do? How can I still stay on track? And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I needed to buy some time. This is probably not the best advice for young people listening, but I decided I'll go to law school. So I took the LSAT. I did okay. And, you know, those last 2 years were really about getting me ready for law school. So I took a lot more humanities classes. Funny, I actually took a Russian history class. Don't ask me why. I just did. And it was just amazing. But
isn't it funny how sometimes the course, and I do think that is good advice for people, sometimes the course that seems the most off your track can be something that sparks in you the most interesting learning. And even if it's not directly applicable, like I think people worry so much about doing the thing or taking the course or taking the job that seems directly applicable to whatever path you think you're supposed to be on, that you're missing the nuggets that end up filling in the gaps, so to speak, in your life.
Yeah, no, actually, you're absolutely right. And, I was really fortunate to have a mom that didn't force us into any lane. It was just whatever you're doing, be the best at it. You're not going to quit. I'll digress just a bit and go back to the childhood. Like I said, I was not the greatest athlete. So tried tennis. Didn't like tennis, especially in Florida, where you played outside in 100 degrees heat. And she said, but I signed you guys up. You're going to finish this. So played tennis. I was gymnastics, not that great at gymnastics, but had to finish it. And so her thing was, whatever you do, give it your best and complete it. I'm not raising quitters, right? And so as I went into undergrad and I realized I did not want to be a chemical engineer, I didn't want to go to med school. Not that I didn't have an aptitude for it. I just didn't have an interest. And so decided to go to law school. So applied to a bunch of places, got into quite a few, but Boston College actually once again gave me a full ride. So got for full tuition.
So amazing, Carolyn. So amazing.
And so that was interesting because Howard, predominantly African American, very international. I had, friends from all over the world. It was so great, so diverse. Then I go to Boston College. I'd never been to Boston. And remember, I said I was a child of the sun.
That is a big climate, culture, every change possible to go there.
300 students in my law school class, 13 were students of color. And not only just 13, I think from the upper classes, the L2 and L3, they probably had maybe 10 more. So in a school where you had almost 1,000 kids, there were just 10. Not 10, I'm sorry. See, I'm not good at math.
25 or 30?
25 out of 1,000. But once again, I had that really great grounding from my early years at Howard. I kind of knew who I was, right? And it's just like, okay, we're going to get through this.
How did that experience, are you able to look back now and ascertain sort of how that experience shaped the professional African-American woman you are today and the way in which you assert yourself in different situations where I would imagine you're often the only woman of color?
Yeah, no, I still am. Still in 2021, I go in spaces, I'm in the only one. I wouldn't say it was law school. I would say it was my mother. It was my mother. It was, once again, being very proud of who you are. And I think as an immigrant coming to this country, you're just hyper focused on achieving, on education, and also coming from the Caribbean, a country that, Black folks. And so she saw, when I was very young, I saw Black folks striving, doctors, lawyers, architects, politicians. I mean, that was our world. And so we come to the US and it was just like, okay, I'm Black, I'm a Black female, I got Black kids, I'm going to make it for them, right? And we just didn't make it a thing. It was a thing because I remember when we moved into our house in Florida, and yes, my mom bought a house in the 70s on her own. Our neighbors, they were not very kind. They were not very kind. And my mother went over there and said, you guys are not running me out. I am here. And let me tell you, we're not having any of this, right? I can go into all the unkind things, but it turned out after a while, they saw us as who we were. We saw them, we were the only Black folks at their kids' weddings. They ended up being our babysitters. I remember Corky and Pam were the teenagers. And they would babysit, these brown kids. And so, my mom also taught us just to see the humanity in people. And so as I move into this world, I am a Black female, period. I can't change that. Anyone who has a problem with that, that's your problem, not mine. And that's how I move in the world. And so, yes, I am sure. Well, I shouldn't say I'm sure. Yeah, could I have done more, been different places if I was something other than a Black female? Probably. But this is just who I am. And that's how I show up. And I always look to find the humanity in people. I love to travel. And when I do travel, no matter where it is, if it's Bhutan, if it's in Cambodia, if it's Thailand, if it's Belgium, right? If it's Mexico, if it's China, I really want to get to know the people. And I usually ask, where do the locals eat? Where do the locals hang out? I don't want kind of the American restaurant. I remember when I went to Paris for the first time, there were places, the hippopotamus, and it was served American food. It's like, oh my God, I do not want to be here. Or you saw McDonald's, or you saw Subway at Versailles. There was a Subway right outside of Versailles. And it's like, there's no way. I want to go to that small little place where they're seating for just maybe 20 and just get to know people. And once again, I got that from my mom. Every summer, right? If we didn't go to Disney World, we would be driving. She had this old 72 Chevy Nova. She'll pile us in there. And we literally, one summer, Ashley drove from Fort Lauderdale to Toronto, Canada to visit relatives.
Wow.
And we stopped along the way. So we were going through middle America, Tennessee, Arkansas, Kentucky, stopping off at truck stops. And this was in the 80s. And we all know what the country was. And, we're still not necessarily used to seeing Black faces in certain parts, especially in the interior. And we would just walk up and just go and sit down. And you knew eyes were on you, but yeah, what are you going to do? We needed to eat.
What an amazing woman, and what an amazing gift. And I hear a lot when I talk to people how formative mothers are in people's story. But I love that she had such a strong sense of self and what she wanted for her children, that she just unabashedly lived forward and showed you guys that. And I love the neighbors, because what a great story of sort of love and hope, right? That we can, and here we are in 2021, talking so intensely about, equity, diversity, inclusion, race relations. And I hope in a more authentic and open way, but I love that your mother was paving that conversation. And I think so many Black Americans were paving that conversation in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And now we're catching up. We're saying, wait, we can be a part of that. We want to be a part of that conversation. And I love how authentically you live because of her.
Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, the thing is, African Americans are only 12% of the population in this country. And for us to really get to a space where we're comfortable talking about race, interacting with race, it does take white America. This is what Black America always talked about, because we've always had to navigate these spaces, right? And for me, I think the reason why I can say I've been successful, my sister's been successful, my brother, is because of my mother, and because we had a grounding outside of the US. We saw what was possible, right? And so we were able to go into spaces where I think there were some folks saying, oh no, you don't belong here. It's like, we never had that as we
but
don't belong.
That's so, for me to hear, Carolyn, I want to say, is so interesting, because when you come from a place where, everybody's Black, and everybody's doing all the jobs that everybody does, you see that as the norm, right? And you come here, that's and I relate that. And I want to talk about your community work a little bit, because you have a real heart for the community. And I know one of the things, we've worked together with United Way. And one of the things I really learned early on in working with United Way was that kids in particular only know what's possible when we show them what's possible. If you live in the same 4-block radius, and you never see that people who look like you, whatever that is, it could be, it doesn't matter. It can be white, it can be Hispanic, it can be Asian, it can be Black. If you don't see that people can do this job and that's possible, you don't know that that's an option. And so I know that so much of the work that we do in our community circles around that. It's exposing kids to the options out there. So, you know, in your experience, what have you seen in the community, and why do you find it so important to give back? Tell us a little bit about what you do, because I know you really were working with, you know, the
Yeah.
Department of Youth and Rehab Services in
And then
DC,
the
and then you,
National Head Start Association, and I keep going back to my mother. It's just her. That's just who we were, right? She was always giving. She was always pulling us out to different charity events. I remember I think it was the 1980 census, she volunteered as a census worker, and we're going into communities that people had so much less than we did, and so I just get it from her. She is a true humanitarian. I mean, she was never wealthy by, different standards, at least monetary wealth, but she always gave. We always had people over. There were always helping someone out. And that just became part of our DNA. When I was at Howard, I was a part of the Newman Catholic Student Center. That was important in my life. And we were always mentoring. I had little sisters, right? And I would go into some of the tougher parts of DC and work with families who just, didn't have a lot. When I was at law school, I would tutor, in addition to spending, I would say, probably 20 hours always studying. It was not the most pleasant experience. That's probably why I'm not practicing law now. But I mean, it really helped focus you on, managing your time, right? Because you had to get that reading done, reading 200-300 pages a night, right? Getting ready for cold calls and the Socratic method. But what was important to me, what kept me grounded, was getting into the community. So Boston College was in Newton, Mass, just beautiful. We had a beautiful campus. But I wanted to be in Roxbury. I wanted to be in Mattapan. I wanted to be in Dorchester. And so we'd make the time to do that. And so, yeah, so law school was tough. It was not fun, but I got through. I passed the bar and became a lawyer, went to Hartford, started practicing bankruptcy law in Hartford. And at that law firm, was 70 years old at the time. I was the first person of color, not the first female of color, not the first African-American, the first person of color in that law firm. And there was probably over 200 lawyers. This is Hartford, Connecticut. And if you know
wow.
Hartford, Connecticut, it's a pretty diverse city, right? And so 70 years, I was the first. But once again, it's like, great, wonderful. I'm here. I'm going to, focus on what I want to do. My colleagues were all great. I am still friends with my that class. There were only 3 of us hired that year. There were 2 guys from New England. And we got along smashingly. We were just fine because we were all struggling as first year lawyers. The senior lawyers reminded us we did not hire lawyers. We just hired law school graduates. And so it takes
important distinction, right? Important distinction.
You guys are just law school graduates. Anyway, I did that probably for about 4 years. And once again, that wasn't where my heart was. I didn't enjoy the work because it is a grind your first few years of being a lawyer, no matter where. But if your heart isn't into it, it becomes exhausting. And I have a pretty small frame. I was even smaller then because I just lost so much weight, just putting in the hours, writing memos, didn't necessarily have the support, the administrative support that I needed. This is an interesting fact. You talk about being an African-American woman, being the first Black woman or person of color at the law firm. My support assistant, who was about my age, so I'm in my mid-20s, she's in her mid-20s, and she just didn't think she needed to support me, and she didn't really feel that I was worthy. I don't know if it was the fact that I was a woman, I was Black, or I was her same age and she aspired to do more, but she couldn't. Anyway, I learned, and once again, you kind of make lemonade out of lemons. I know how to draft a document. I do not need any support. I can get around a Word document. I can do prep PowerPoints. I can do Excel all on my own because she never did my documents. And if I needed to get something done, I couldn't make the excuse, well, Kathy didn't do it, And so I figured out how to do that anyway. I digress.
But I like that because it's sort of I have a phrase. I put sticky notes places when something strikes me as a phrase that I want to make part of my being. And I've got a big one that every challenge is an opportunity. And so I think that's such an important mindset. And when I hear your story, you're good at a lot of things and you put your mind to something, you did it. But what I really love, Carolyn, and I think so many people out there listening struggle with, is this concept of being true to what really makes you feel fulfilled, that you're passionate about. And you tried things and you've gained tools in the toolbox, but they weren't your passion. And so I want to kind of take a quick break and come back and fast forward a little bit to your work now with Victaulic and human resources and how that has brought together many pieces of your life,
Yes,
from your community
absolutely.
work, your love of people. I'm sure law comes in handy all the time. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Carolyn Stennet right after this. As a mother of two, I know it can be tough to find activities that everyone will enjoy. Luckily, the Lehigh Valley has so many ways to treat your family without breaking the bank. You can experience cool discoveries at the Da Vinci Science Center or all aboard the WK&S railroad train for an afternoon adventure. There's fun around every corner of the Lehigh Valley, and you can uncover it all on Discover Lehigh Valley's website. Visit discoverlehighvalley.com for more information. Welcome back to Unscripted with Russo. I'm Ashley Russo, and I'm being joined by Carolyn Stennet today. She's been telling us about her amazing journey of following different paths to lead to where she is today, following her passion ultimately. And Carolyn, I'd love to ask you a little bit about how did this journey from shy kid to potential scientist to lawyer lead to being the VP of Human Resources at this big global company, Victaulic, that's located right here in the Lehigh Valley. How did you end up there? And tell me a little bit about your role.
Oh, goodness. So how did I end up? Well, I'll tell you about my role first. So I am the VP of HR. And so I am responsible for the people side of things. So our talent management, our leadership development, our benefits, payroll, and Victaulic has a global footprint. We have employees in over 50 countries, and we service customers in over 120 countries. And so what I love most about this job and this role is, one, meeting our incredible employees across the globe and helping them discover or help them develop and grow in their roles. And so for me, it marries, my passion for people, my passion for travel, passion for places, and then to a lesser extent, my love of food. So wherever I go, whatever corner of the world, I am there, just kind of immersed in whatever food culture there is with my employees. It's like, no, I do not want to see anything close to American. Give me full bang on whatever it is, whether I'm in Shanghai, Dalian, Mumbai, Balboa.
And isn't it neat to be in a job that gives you the opportunity to travel? I know a lot of people say, oh, it's a lot of travel sometimes, but I love that you seize the opportunity to say, well, I'm in this culture. I want to learn about the people through their food.
Absolutely.
I have to ask, are you an Anthony Bourdain fan? God rest his soul. If you are, and some of his stuff would really, he always gets to the take me to the street vendor, take me to the hole in the wall. Some of his really early stuff, my husband's a huge fan. So some of his really early stuff really got at the heart of that. So I was thinking about you. Maybe next thing for you would be some sort of cool travel food show.
Oh, you know what? Let me tell you, I'm already thinking what's my next chapter. But you asked, how did I get here? Well, I got here because a former boss and mentor gave me a cold call out of the blue. And that was John Malloy. He was the president of Victaulic. And in a former life, when I left the law firm, I actually went in-house to United Technologies, which is a global, or was a global company, over 300,000 employees. and I worked for their carrier division, and that only had at the time 60,000 employees. And so I was an in-house counsel for carrier. John was the president for one of the division, and I was his lawyer. And John was just absolutely, absolutely an incredible mentor. He told me one thing that has always stuck to me. He said, you know what? Lawyers can always tell me what I can't do and what's wrong. He said, if you want to add real value, tell me how I can get done what I need to get done. And that has always stuck with me.
Awesome advice. I love that. And
But
John he's a tremendous leader and really a wonderful human being. He's, you know, Victaulic, yourself are so good to this community. And so I think it's great to see such a global company take such an interest in the community where a lot of the employees work and live.
Yeah, and so that was 20 years ago. So John and I had not worked with each other since the early 2000s. John came to Victaulic, I think it was 2003. I then stayed a few more years at UTC, but once again, I was coming up on kind of like a 10-year mark, and I had a great experience at UTC. Some people bash big corporations. I had a great career. I worked on mergers and acquisitions. I lived in Paris for a while. I was heading up our European operation as the lawyer in Europe, but I realized it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't what I enjoyed. And that's when I like to say I took my sabbatical. I had my midlife crises early. And so I took a sabbatical and went to the Kennedy School. And talking about meeting my tribe, I mean, these were my people from all over.
And this was getting a master's of public administration.
Public administration, because what I wanted to do, Ashley, I wanted to transition into the nonprofit sector, but I didn't want to start from the ground floor, nor did I want to come in as just, oh, here's someone from corporate America telling us how to do this. I really wanted to be steeped in it, and then also be able to go in at a level high enough, right, that I would really be able to make change. And so once again, when I talk about, I look 10 paces out, I said, how could I do it, right? Wasn't happy with where I was. It would be really easy for me just to say, I'm done, I'm out, you know, let me just go work at a nonprofit. But I wanted to be really thoughtful and strategic about it. And so, yeah, I actually told my general counsel. He thought I was crazy. Then I had to go talk to the general counsel, had lunch with him, and he said, what are you doing? What do you want? And anyway, so I took a leave of absence because they wouldn't let me resign. I took a leave of absence, went to the Kennedy School, found my tribe, had an absolutely just spectacular, awesome experience there, and realized I couldn't go back to what I was doing. And, you know, for 4 years, I worked as the chief operating officer for the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. I had never ran any organization, but they looked at my resume. It's like, okay, they had a new director. He'd never run an agency, so I don't think he knew any better. So he hired me.
We're figuring it out together.
And so I ran that operation. I was responsible for over 400 court-involved youth. We had 3 facilities. I had a warehouse. It was all that. And then after 4 years, he was moving on. You know, we had just opened up a new world-class facility, and I thought, okay, what else is there? Okay, I got a call from a classmate from the Kennedy School. She was just becoming the executive director of the National Head Start Association. What I was feeling at the youth center was there's got to be a way to prevent kids when they're 12, 13, 14, getting involved in the court system. How can I prevent this? And was just in my head again thinking, gosh, these kids are really great. The challenge was they didn't have the real adults in their life to show them a different way. How can I impact that? And just out of the blue, she called me and said, hey, I'm taking over heading up the National Head Start Association. She knew what my passions were when we were at the Kennedy School. What do you think about coming in, being my deputy and general counsel? Here is the plan. And the National Head Start, or just Head Start, is a preschool readiness program for at-risk children and families.
And there's such a
so,
direct correlation to early childhood education,
absolutely,
reading levels, and
absolutely,
keeping youth out of prison. I mean, it's a direct
absolutely.
statistic. It's a direct statistic.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. That's exactly, I said, you know what, I'm going to get this from the prevent kids from coming into institutions like this. And so was there for 6 years. Absolutely incredible. I mean, we have their Head Start programs all over the country. There's a wonderful Head Start program in the Valley, but I was able to travel across the US, and it was so eye-opening. We always hear about the challenges in kind of urban areas, inner city. But let me tell you, you haven't seen poverty until you go to rural America. You go to Northwest, Northwest Arkansas, the Ozark Mountains. Oh my gosh, there it is really
next level.
You know, and you see families who are just having problems with meth. You know, you see all of this suffering, but yet they still want more for their kids. And so the great thing about Head Start, yes, it was talking about preschool readiness and the kids, but it also talked about parent engagement. And how do you get parents to be the best advocates for their kids? How do you get parents to understand their role as teachers? And so I spend a lot of time traveling. And so I know what poverty looks like in America, right? I know also, I see the humanity in people, that even though they don't have much education, they don't have a lot of financial wealth, all parents want their kids to do better.
I understand the progression so far, and you've got the connection with John Malloy. I think this is a very important piece about leadership and developing. You know, I've especially recently taking on new roles in my life and in business. What I find is that the professional development and the leadership skills that you work on, or hopefully are working on, people in general, translate. So someone will say to me, I don't understand, you're in journalism in a media company, and now you're running a manufacturing firm, and I don't understand. And I'm like, well, there's a lot to learn, of course, about the specifics of a particular business or industry, but the rest of it all translates.
It does. And you know, at the end of the day, it's people, and really understanding what drives people, why they do what they do, what's important to them. And, you know, I keep going back just to seeing the humanity in people. When you really get to know individuals, who they are, what their desires, what they want out of life, you know what? We're not that different. We really are not that different. And so I always say it's only John Malloy that could get me here to the Lehigh Valley. Because I've lived in a lot.
I have to tell you, first of all, we're so happy you're here.
Yeah.
And we love how you've embraced the Valley. And I'd love to ask you just a little bit about, what have you found? You've traveled all over. You know, you've been from Florida to Boston, and every, you know, in between. Lived in Paris, which is amazing. But what about the Lehigh Valley and Allentown do you love? Tell us a little bit about your experience here.
You know what? So one, I love the people. I think they're just absolutely great, really friendly. I love the Allentown Art Museum, and not just because I'm on the board, but you know, I love their mission and really opening up the museum to be a part of the community. I love Arts Quest. Being able to go there and see just phenomenal performances. You know, I don't live too far from Trexler Park, so I go there and I jog. I fancy myself a runner, and I've done a couple marathons, but I just really love just the peace that you get at Trexler, and I love the growing food scene here. So I have to
ask you about that. You're a foodie. Yeah. And is there anywhere you in particular that you really love, or that's a go-to for you?
You know what? It depends on what I have a taste for, right? So if it's Indian, I like Aman's in Easton. Mexican, I like Cactus Blue. And you know, I'm a big diner girl. So I will go to Nick's Diner.
Now,
If
wait a second, Carolyn. I'm from New Jersey. You know what they say about Jersey girls and their diners. I mean, it's on every exit.
Well,
So
we have to compare notes. I am a diner girl because I can go really high end. And, in New York, I've been Madison Park, I've been to Per Se. I mean, when I go to Belgium, but there is nothing better than going to a diner,
couldn't agree more.
getting, corned beef hash, eggs sunny side up, and really good coffee. And so I found Nick's. I'm still trying to explore and see what the other places. But once again, for me, it doesn't necessarily matter the name or how much something is going to cost. Is it good? Is the food good? Right? There's so many trendy places, and you go in there and it's like, it's all right.
Right.
Right? Or you go in this hole in the wall and it's phenomenal.
I
Absolutely
think the thing
phenomenal.
I love here is that while we are such a small community, we're also got some stuff that has that big city feel.
Yeah.
And so we've got these amazing culinary experiences and restaurants, but we actually have the opportunity to get to know the people behind them. And I think when you know the people and the story, and we have such a diverse valley, and a lot of that diversity shows up in the food
Yeah.
and the restaurant opportunities, from the hole in the wall to the fanciest place. We've got everything in between as well. But I think it's, all of this diversity is showing up in our food, which is great. It's
Which
it's
is great.
a
And
conversation starter.
I just hope, more people who've been born and raised here actually get out and see the new folks that are coming. I went to in Allentown, there was an Ethiopian restaurant, and it's no longer there, but absolutely, absolutely loved it. And, you say Ethiopian, and some people will say, oh my gosh, that's too exotic. And it's like,
Just go, just try it. Well, that's one of the goals of course, of our podcast, of our show, is to show people the amazing things. And when we started the Peak TV, so many people said to us, are there really enough stories to tell in the Lehigh Valley? And here we are, I don't even know, 9 years later, almost a decade later, and we have to make room. There are so many stories. So I love that. Thank you for sharing your love of the Valley, and we're glad you're here. Before I let you go, we like to do a little rapid fire question section. So I just want to confirm for the audience, you have not heard these questions.
No.
All right. What is your favorite hobby?
Oh goodness, what is my favorite hobby? Probably cooking and traveling.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh my gosh. And it depends on what I have a taste for. I can go from making Thanksgiving dinner all the way down just to making a very elegant, grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup. So I can do it all. And I love it all. I love cooking.
All right. Now this one's going to be really hard for you. What is one food that you could not live without?
All right, this is going to be really boring. What I could not live without is something green. I always have something green on my plate.
Me too. Is that from your mother?
It is.
That's from my mother. My mother always made sure there was something green on the table, and I'm the same way. If I make something, I have to add broccoli.
Well, growing up, once again, you're going to get tired of hearing about my mom. We always had a salad every single day. There was a green salad. So
in fact, my mother-in-law, who's Irish and very meat and potatoes, she jokes with me all the time that, a meal isn't complete for Ashley unless there's a big salad bowl nearby.
Yep. Folks know that.
That's funny. All right. What actress would you cast to play you in a movie about your life?
Oh my gosh. It would either be Viola Davis or, I think it would probably be Viola Davis.
So amazing.
Yeah, she's just so awesome and powerful. Yeah.
And I think she brings the passion in the way she acts that would capture you appropriately. I like that
so
one.
Authentic.
All right.
Unapologetic.
If you didn't have the job you have now, what would you be doing instead? And it can't be something you've already done.
No, you know what? I would own a restaurant. I would own a restaurant that just serves very clean food, and it's a gathering place. I love bringing people together around meals. So I'd own a restaurant.
All right. And the last question, who is one person that inspires you?
And my mom.
I know.
That's it. I mean, I am who I am because of my mother.
Beautiful. Well, with that, we're going to end the podcast. Carolyn, Stennet, thank you so much for being an amazing guest, for being so open and transparent with us and teaching us all about your life. This has been fabulous. I'm so excited to get to know you better. And we wish you the best of luck with Victaulic. And thank you for all of your work in our community. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ashley. Take care.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to Unscripted. Until next time.